joining us right now. She went to UC Santa Barbara. She played in WNBA. She covered sports down in Phoenix. She, what else?
Are you going to say the thing you said earlier about how you could beat her in a one-on-one game?
We actually both know that I said the opposite of that, but that's okay. You don't need to throw me under the bus with Kayte. Kayte will find a way to do it on her
She'll
own.
pull you under the bus, yeah.
It's the one, the only Kayte Hunter, sideline reporter for your Sacramento Kings. Good morning, Kayte.
Good morning, fellas. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kyle? I asked you too, sir.
I am fantastic. Really wonderful.
Hey,
today.
we have a new addition to the show. Jay does the Jay Mars does the video and everything KH2K.com and YouTube. So you say hi to him
Oh,
too.
sweet. Hello.
Good
My
morning.
Goodness, look at you growing.
Yeah. That's me. Coming on 7 months now. How? Let me get. What time did you wake up this morning, Kayte?
I was up at 5:30,
Yeah.
but she went back down, so I'm just kind of praying that lasts for a while.
Gotcha. How's the sleep schedule?
No, she's good. She's good. She goes to bed between 7 and 8 and wakes up generally about 5:30 to eat, and then we'll go back down for another hour and a half or so. So she's a good baby. I can't complain.
Well, I do watch on the Instagram, and I do see the cute baby pictures. The one thing that bothers me is that those same posts also carry over to Twitter. So you'll put on Twitter like the same thing you put on Instagram.
I stopped that recently. I figured out.
You did figure it out because no pictures.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on Twitter, no
You know
pictures.
what? No, it does it from Facebook, actually.
Oh, okay, and then goes to both.
Yeah, so I don't know how to do that. I'm really not all that concerned about it.
Kayte and I are just catching up on there. Everybody, go do whatever you guys need to do. We're just hanging out. I'm going to ask her home decor questions next.
Oh, goodness.
Hey, did you ever dunk?
No, I never tried.
Not in game, but like ever. Like
No, I never tried. to dunk.
really?
Yeah, I could touch the rim and all that stuff. This is like a common question. I'm not a super,
Is it common?
No, it's a common question for women like that played the game. Like, can you dunk? I never really cared much to try. I guess if I were going to have done it, it would have been earlier when I was still playing volleyball, because volleyball, you jump. Like basketball, you don't have to if you have good technique. So,
No, we were.
and, you get old and all that.
We were talking about this dunk contest last night, and I forget the name of the lady who won, but we were talking about dunks earlier. And I honestly don't remember if that me ever asking you that. I think I remember you saying you never dunked in a game. I just don't remember if you ever like on the playground or in the gym or something.
No, I never tried. I'm sure probably on like a low rim messing around, it probably happened at some point. But yeah, no, I'm not. I dunked on you in the swimming pool. So
I was distracted. Defense pinned me down. Somebody threw you an alley-oop.
Right.
It
Yeah.
actually bounced off. If I remember correctly, it bounced off my head and went over the fence. Are you rooting for Jimmer?
Yeah, I want him to do well. I want to see kind of if his style and his abilities fit in a little bit better with the league changing over the last few years. And I want to see if the time in China made him realize what he needs to do on the NBA level. He talked to me and he said that, it was one of those things where he felt like he found himself as a player over in China and being the focal point of a team and being able to play both the 1 and the 2 guard. And I feel like that was the biggest kind of problem for him on the NBA level. Is I think he thinks of himself more as a point guard, and I think the NBA wanted him to be a shooter. So he was conflicted in his roles of what they were asking him to do, and so he wasn't looking for his shot as much. So I didn't see the game in Utah, but it's a transition to try and fit back in with the team that or to fit in with a team that you've never really played with. So it's not like at this point in the season you have much practice time, so you're relying on the games and shoot-arounds to kind of get familiar with everything. So we'll see. I hope he does well. I'm hoping, obviously, that he does enough to have them come back next year, yeah.
Kayte Hunter joining us. She will be doing pre-half and post for the Kings versus Mavericks tonight. You can also hear that on Sports 1140 KHTK. Katie, injuries aside, internal strife aside, I mean, something catastrophic like that aside, I'm mainly talking on the floor. In the remaining 9 games, is there really anything that can happen to make this not a successful season for the Kings in your eyes?
Not in my eyes, no. I mean, I guess it could be something of just seeing them give up,
Right.
but I don't see that in this team. I haven't seen that in this team all season. I want them to finish strong. I know that for a lot of people, they're upset and have been kind of for the last maybe couple weeks with how this team has played, considering that they were in the hunt for a playoff spot. But I think that when you take your kind of fan goggles off for a moment and just look at it from a realistic set of standards, this team has far surpassed what they were supposed to do and have blown expectations out of the water. And people are like, oh, yeah, well, expectations change throughout the course of the season. Yeah, but I think what people don't understand is that the last month of a season is the most brutal, like basically from March through the first 10 days of April. Because, yeah, it's not just about this team trying to make the playoffs. It's about every other team trying to make the playoffs too, as well as the ones that are already out that take fun in trying to be disruptive. And the Kings were that team for a while. We know what those teams are doing. And so it's not the same as playing a month and a half stretch during December and January in terms of what you're getting from teams. So to me, the only thing that could be disappointing is if they roll over, but I just don't see this team having that mentality.
And you and I have both been called super homers because of our almost, well, at least in my case, I'll call myself rabid defense of Dave Yeager down the stretch. I'm not here to say Dave Yeager's been perfect. I think Dave Yeager's made some mistakes over the last month or two, but I also think it's impossible for a coach to go a full season without crapping the bed a couple of times. That being said, how would you grade him and his performance overall this season?
That's a good question because, I think you obviously are on Twitter, so Twitter is where people vent their frustration. So I have gotten a lot of complaints about Dave Yeager, and I feel like people feel like I'm defending him. But again, it's just like I'm trying to look at this logically. You're right, Dave. There's been some mistakes made, some kind of in-game mistakes that you scratch your head and you're not 100% sure, what he was doing in that situation. I'm sure there was a reason. And some coaches have different philosophies and handle things differently. But the way I look at it is like he's been at the helm while this team has developed over the last 2 years, and that's where the biggest development phase has been. It's been him and his staff. So to me, he's not failing. He hasn't failed. He's been very successful in getting this team to where they are. Coaching and developing is different than just coaching in game. So there have been some errors in game, but coaches have errors in game just like players do. And when they're in situations like in game, they get magnified by 100. And so we've seen that a couple times.
And I also think, just to build on what you said, it's Kyle likes to say something micro and macro, and the day-to-day is one thing. But overall, I'm disappointed that there's, 6-11 since the middle of February, and I also understand that has a little bit to do with the teams they've been playing. But there's been games, and Brooklyn obviously stands out, Minnesota, at Washington. There's been games, the Lakers even, that bother me. But I think we can go into the offseason certainly with some complaints, certainly with some issues, but also probably thinking this team has a brighter future and more excitement going into a season than they've had since the beginning of the millennium. And I don't know that that's arguable.
No, I think if you argue that, you're just being moronic and looking for things to nitpick at, truly.
Wow.
I do. I mean, and I don't mean to be abrasive or aggressive, but that's the reality. I mean, I think a lot of fans, I think the ones that are complaining on a massive level, it's a small minority of fans. Most fans that I interact with say, hey, listen, this team is exciting. They're fun. They're developing at a fast pace. I can't wait to see what it's like in 3 years. And on all honesty, like on a personal level, I thought it would be 2 more years before this team really had the opportunity to vie for a playoff spot. And so what they've done this season, where everyone was hoping that they would be in the playoffs, including myself, I've never covered a team in the playoffs. So selfishly, it's an exciting thing to think about. And also because I think I said it on air after the last game, this group of people is by far the best group of people collectively that I've covered in professional sports, and probably on the college level as well. I mean, they're a tremendous group of human beings, and that makes my job so much more fun. And I want to see them succeed. So, when I look at it, I'm like, they've just moved themselves 2 years ahead of where I expected them to be. And it's like, yes, we wanted playoffs this year, but I expect them to be in the playoffs next year. And then it's like, okay, if they're not, that you can look at it as like, oh, it's a little disappointing. But, that's how – so I don't look at this year as a failure, but I look at it as, okay, next year they put some very high expectations on themselves. Will they be able to meet them this early on in the development phase as a group?
Kayte Hunter joining us. I mean, one of them took you for a mani-pedi. Kind of made me – I mean, that's my thing. What's up with that?
It's so funny because, basketball players have notoriously bad feet.
Yes.
And
disgusting feet.
Yeah. And so it's I don't know. I got them constantly as a player, and I don't know if it's the difference between women and men's feet. Women basketball players don't have bad feet. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because we get pedicures or not. But that was a really fun thing with Harry. And the craziest thing about that whole experience, the mani-pedi was fun, and it's always fun to do something different in those settings where you're just really sitting down to have a conversation. But I learned so much about just his mentality and why he is the way he is now. And it's like, okay, yes, he's a professional, but it wasn't that long ago since he was a young kid, playing with, a group of like high school kids in tournaments and that kind of, it really wasn't that long ago when you think about it. But like his passing ability, I think the one that blew me away the most is talking to him about his passing. First of all post players want to be guards growing up. So you can kind of understand it to a certain degree. It doesn't make them good passers. But he said, when I was playing, all of the hype was on me, and we know he was like projected the number one player out of high school.
Yep.
And then injuries happen. And so he's like, all of the focus was on me all the time, and I felt so bad for my teammates. And so I wanted them to feel some of the sunshine, some of the light being shined on them. So I wanted to pass to them. I wanted them to do well. And I mean, my goodness, if that just doesn't show you a special thing about a basketball player, I thought, and this is a high school kid where so many of them kind of thrive and want the light to be on them. And here's Harry that just, I want other people to be able to experience it too. And luckily he has that kind of mentality because it really did develop him into a high level passer. And that's been a fun part of his game for me to watch this year. But yeah, those King Centrals are a lot of fun. I haven't seen that one yet, so I don't know what made the show and what didn't. That's the difficult part. You sit down for an hour and a half with someone, and 22 minutes of your conversation makes air.
It's funny. You talking about Harry made me remember this, and this just goes to show you where he's come in such a short time. I Googled Harry Giles Sacramento tweets, and I bring up a Washington Post article where it actually, thank you, credits me for digging these up, which is false. About 50, yeah, I know, I was in Washington Post, thank you, Kyle, which is totally false because about 50 people dug up these tweets. It'll be 5 years ago next month, where Harry Giles tweeted out, Sacramento is the wackest city ever. Anybody want to take me to get some food? I'm starving. Somebody said, Harry, what if you get drafted there? He said, I'll be the happiest, saddest dude in the world. Now, he's already addressed those a long time ago when he was drafted and already went all over that. But my point is, here we are, less than 2 years after he was drafted. And it's easy to say, like, oh, I didn't mean that. Of course you're going to say that when you get drafted to the team. But I don't think I'm the most Sacramento guy in the freaking world damn near. And I don't have a single bone in my body that doubts that Harry has embraced this city and truly considers it home. And I'd rather it be that way. I think that's a lot better than somebody coming here and already loving Sacramento or even having an open mind. Harry came in here and at one point wanted to get out of the city when he was a kid, and now he's absolutely fallen in love with it. And as a Kings fan, that kind of stuff makes me feel really good.
Yeah, well, those types of things, I mean, when you go back and dig up something that a 15-year-old kid tweeted, because they don't have a car, they can't go anywhere, they can't do anything. They're here playing in a tournament or something, and they don't know the city. They're like that. That kind of stuff is irrelevant to me. Yeah, it's like, you know what? And when they still had the Monarchs, and I'd come to town to play, the Monarchs. That was before, obviously, the arena downtown. That was when that was still like the little mall downtown and Hard Rock Cafe. Like, coming to Sacramento, it was hard sometimes to find stuff to do and places to eat. We went to Macouni's all the time. That was really the only place that we went when we came to town. And I can understand from his perspective. There wasn't a lot going on downtown at that time, and I was an adult that could get myself around and go and do things. But so, obviously this is a completely different city now than it was 5 years ago. And you know what? In 5 years, it's going to be completely different, because I'm still loving seeing all the construction going on downtown by the arena. Now that hotel is they're underway on that hotel that is joined to the parking structure in the arena. That should be a really cool thing to see. Do you know which one I'm talking about? That brick one on 7th and is it L or K?
Yep.
I think it's L Street.
There's that, and then wait till we get an MLS team and they start building those rail yards, and then they connect
the rail
that
yards,
district.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
And by the time your kid and my kids are old enough to walk around with their friends downtown, they're going to be like, so what's the big deal? Oh, it was always like this, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I pay no attention to those tweets they dig up of what players say when they're teenagers.
Yeah, we all probably said a couple things when we were teenagers maybe we want to take back. I love the fact that he is absolutely head over heels for the city and vice versa. I think the city is head over heels for Harry Giles. All right,
absolutely.
You've got work to do, not just as a mommy, but I'm sure knowing you already have your laptop out and are going over box scores and trends and all that stuff. Nobody more prepared than Kayte.
Charting things, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Kayte likes to prepare, and Kayte will knock it out pre-half and post with Jim Cosmore tonight, correct?
That's right. I will be in San Francisco. So, gosh, I can't believe it's – we only have, 3 home games left?
Yeah, something like that. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
You want to come back?
I'm in studio most of the time, yeah.
You want to come back this summer while baseball's on, work radio? Yeah, okay.
You're looking forward to it that much, huh?
Oh, you know how I am. That's Kayte Hunter joining us. Kayte, appreciate it as always. We'll see you tonight on the game.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. Kayte Hunter.
You're listening to The Drive.